It's time once again for the best darn sports simulation and replays podcast on the web, Digital to Dice.
I put you in charge for one day, and you stumble over everything. You added too many syllables.
You know, I've done the ad for the thing for the last year and a half or 2 years, 3 to 4 times a week. Pressure.
And then when you step up to the plate in the bigs, it's a swing and a miss.
I'm Ron.
I'm Dave.
And welcome to episode 74, where we kind of managed to get through the opening without messing up too many times. And, hey, ways to get a hold of us. You know, first of all, our Facebook group, Dave, is over 600 strong. That's facebook.com/groups/digital to dice. The website, www.digital, the word two with 1 dice.com. And, Dave, what's the phone number?
978-751-DICE, 978-751-3423. You can send us a text or even a voicemail that we may or may not play on the show. And email, if you want to get a hold of us on email, digitaltodice@yahoo.com. And if you like some cool Digital to Dice gear, we have a shop set up over at Cafe Press, cafepress.com/digital to dice.
There you go. So all sorts of different ways to get a hold of us and to buy some goodies, because I know those mouse pads, especially the 21 years of the 21st century, you know, are really important to have.
Yeah. I saw Al Red Sox fan was rolling dice on the Digital to Dice mouse pad, one of his videos. It was kind of neat to see.
He got like a towel or a blanket or something like that.
I forget what he got. A few things on there, so it was kind of neat.
Because you could actually do that as well. You know, some dishcloths.
I need to get a mug myself so I can have it up here on camera when we go live on the video.
Yeah, you know, I've thought of that too. And the other thing is, you know, it's just in time for Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
you know,
yes.
What more does a significant other in your life need than some clothing?
Digital. Imagine the look on her face when she opens up Digital to Dice thong. Imagine.
Oh yeah, the look on her face. All right. I'm not sure it would be, oh, wow, honey. You know what also you should do? You could get, like, you know, thongs with Aunt Becky was here.
Oh, boy. Hey, so it's episode 74. You got anybody?
I did the open there, Buckaroo.
All right, so 74 is the expansion Capitals and Scouts in the NHL. It's the best I can come up with.
It's a 9-win year, kind of like this podcast.
It is. Nine wins. So anyway, what do you think? Should we get into, we got the intro out of the way?
Talk about the topic today first.
Oh, yes. Well, you're in charge. Go ahead. You're in charge.
I was. Today, we're going to talk about sports management games. A lot of you are familiar with, of course, the digital games such as Action PC, or the dice games such as Stratomatic or Payoff Pitch. But today we're going to take a look at sports management games, games which put you more into the realm of GM, general manager, than head coach or player. And so that's what we're going to talk about after we visit Aunt Becky at the Thong Factory and check out what we're playing. No, I can't take you to the college library, Aunt Becky. They didn't name it after you again.
That's too bad. She put in a lot of money to that college.
She did.
She could have bought the college for all the money she put in.
You know, in all seriousness, if they had just like built a wing onto a children's hospital or made some serious contribution for that, it would have all been above board.
Yep.
Anyway. So, Dave, what have you been playing?
Let me see. I've been playing a lot of Franchise Manager Hockey 7. Probably why we're talking about manager things, games today. We did the interview last week with Jeff, the producer of Franchise Hockey Manager 7. It was a great interview there. We talked to him, asked him a lot of questions, learned a little bit about the series and how the game works and the whole bit. Talked a lot of hockey as well. So I've been in the hockey mode there. I did a couple of videos, did some random debut seasons, which is really fun because what that does is it throws like all the people from history in a pool. Not all of them, but it weeds out X amount of players and puts them in a pool. Then you draft your team in any year, and that was kind of fun, because you could end up with a 20-year-old Phil Esposito and a 30-year-old Brad Marchand and a 26-year-old John Van Beesbrook. I mean, it's all over the place.
Right.
It's a random debut, so they start at different times. And that makes for a real fun draft because I think I was playing the 1960 season, I think I was streaming, and Mario Lemieux was on the 1960 Detroit Red Wings, and he had 129 points in 70 games. He just blew everybody away. The next guy behind him had, I think, 69 points, and it was his line mate. Yeah, that's just how ridiculous he was in that draft. And, of course, the Red Wings went all the way in season 1 that I played. And it's just really fun. I go in, I do crazy things. I don't necessarily manage the day-to-day operations like you can do and manage salaries. I kind of like to pick my teams, set my lines, and just let them run. I'll even take the injuries off and just see how the team does, how my team that I picked does, and see who does well and who doesn't, if there's any surprises in the whole bit. And then I'll make a couple of odd trades. I just have fun in that sandbox. I adjust the league sometimes. I change how many games they play, how many teams make the playoffs, the playoff structure. I sometimes, like I said, I even take off injuries if I didn't say that already. I just like to watch it kind of play out. And I don't really get involved on a game by game basis or a contract basis, but I just kind of like to watch from above, watch my creation kind of happen and see what happens there. And I don't really have too much of a rooting interest for any particular team. It's just fun to see how it all plays out. So I've been playing a lot of Franchise Hockey Manager 7, and I'm starting to learn it again. I played a lot of Franchise Hockey Manager 2 and 5, I think, was the other one I played. I didn't play a lot of 6 because that's when I get into the cards and dice stuff. But I'm back in there on 7 there, and I'm like really learning what things do now. And oh, that's what that does. And then we asked Jeff a bunch of questions last week. So that's how that does, and that's what this does. And so I'm a little bit more clearer on what to do on some things in there, but it's still a very deep game if you like to manage things. But I have my own fun in that game, and that's what that game does. It allows you to do all kinds of things.
And we'll talk about this in the main part of the show, but it really can be whatever sandbox you want to play in.
Yeah.
Just put the kitty litter out of there, okay?
The only other thing I think I played, I'm trying to think if I might have streamed another basketball game on the channel. I'm still continuing the 84-85 Celtics in replay PC basketball, so I might have done one. I'm not sure if I did or not this week or last week. And I actually jumped on the PlayStation 4. No, the Xbox. And they had a sale on Star Wars Squadrons, which is like the X-Wing TIE Fighter game that you can fly around. And it was on sale. It was almost half price. So I said, I'll pick it up and fly around and shoot some things. And, I kept failing the first mission. And I realized why I stopped playing my Xbox and PlayStation. I keep forgetting that I just can't play those anymore. It just... I'm not good at them, and as you can see, I played on the easiest mode, and I failed the first mission, and the controller flew across the room and turned it off, and I went back to playing Gems of War because that's something I can play and enjoy. I'm up to level 90, by the way.
84. I hit level 84 this morning.
Yeah. I wonder what
there are
who else is playing that game? There's someone else playing that game.
Well, ID was playing it.
ID, yeah. I wonder what level he's on if he's still playing it. So, because I know
it's addictive because you can play it and you get transfixed by it. And
one more game.
There's just so many different ways that you can play that.
There's so much going on. I mean, leveling up and opening chests, and just.
I had 108 to open this morning.
Oh, that's
Someone in because I joined a guild.
Yeah.
And somebody had put us over a level in the guild, and so. Yeah, I had 108 chests this morning to open.
The only thing about playing in the guild is that you can't bring in your team. You got to kind of go with a different team.
No, I mean, all your trophies count towards your guild's number.
Yeah, it just seems like I can't bring in my team into the guild. At least I couldn't find a way to do that.
No, I mean, I don't do much playing within the guild, but all your stuff counts for the guild.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And so, so even when you do as Gems of War podcast continues after this. No, every time you see that trophy come up after you win a battle, that's a point for your guild.
Oh, good. Okay, so I am contributing to the guild.
And so, so you do contribute to the guild, and you can give money and stuff like that as well if you want to help contribute to quests within the guild.
Okay. So
So there's plenty of ways, and again, since I do the casual thing, I don't do the PvP. No one's harassed me to get money or join the battle. So it's been great. Been great.
I'd say it's a relaxing game, but last night I had a couple of episodes where the iPad nearly went flying, and she was like, maybe you should take a break because it gets frustrating. It does.
I mean, you normally get stomping through, and then there's a couple of times I got legitimately beat in a mission that I should have easily won.
Yeah, it's just all of a sudden the opponent does something and your two best guys are gone. It's like, I ain't beating you, the three of you guys with my goblin. That ain't gonna happen. So,
well, but it's always fun to give it a try. Anyway, so yeah, I've been playing a lot of that. Some pinball, some tennis elbow, and of course the 49 baseball replay, which Dave watches religiously every Tuesday and Thursday at noon and Wednesday at 8 p.m.
I sometimes will replay it in the middle of the night when I can't sleep.
Does it work like C-SPAN? Whereas HR 417 designates July 17th as National Garbanzo Bean Day, Yep, I fell asleep. No, I mean, that's been fun.
You've had some extra inning games. The last two I watched both went to extra innings.
I don't know. Walk-off win yesterday, as a matter of fact. So after a couple of weeks of just blowout city, we've gotten some good games again. And when the chat gets going, people can be quite funny.
Yeah, the chat's usually better than the game. Just saying. Did I say that out loud?
Let's go Knicks, okay? Let me know what your next game is in your Celtics replay, all right? Oh, and of course, sadly, we've had to do a couple tribute games. Don Sutton has passed away since we did what we were playing, and Hank Aaron.
Oh my gosh, it's been a tough year for tribute games.
I believe that's the 12th Hall of Famer to go since January 1st of last year, and I had the incident with the coffee I didn't want the day that Phil Negro died, so I didn't even do a tribute game for him.
You weren't even sure if he died or not after that coffee.
Yes.
You weren't sure who died, who was alive. You weren't sure where you were. We should have done a show when you were on that. That would have been hilarious. Thinking back, knowing that you're okay, it would have been hilarious to do a show.
I bet.
When you go back there, let me know. We'll fire up the mics.
Guess what I'm not doing again? Buy my own blessed coffee, okay? So what? Oh, because it's been a couple of weeks, I did another. I did a full day at the races using Lon Whitehead's game.
Oh, no, that's a fun one. That's a fun game,
isn't it? And so I let the computer choose all the horses, and I graphically showed you in no uncertain terms why I should never be allowed to bet on horse racing. 240 fake bucks and bet, and I only got 39 out of all those bets. But it was fun.
You did a video a few weeks ago on that, and you were having the race and setting it up. And in my mind, or a piece of paper, I jotted down my trifecta. And needless to say, I was wrong. But the two out of the three I picked finished first, second, and third. And the third guy didn't come in. But I didn't hit them in order. But if let's say I took 2, 3, 4, it might have come in like 6, 4, 3 or something. So I was like, two of them finished. But
good for you.
But still, I didn't come anyways near winning.
Anyway, so that was fun, and you can create your own fake racetracks. You can have the Dave Gardner Mile or something like that. It really is just an incredible game. So that's pretty much what I've been playing since we did this last. Also took a look at and hope to figure out how to do something with Roberto Civini is releasing the Olympics as a complete package, one by one.
Oh, we should mention his new website.
Yes, his new website, www.robertocivini.games.com.
Yep. So we have all his games up there on robertocivini.com. So you can, so they're all sorted by category, and as new stuff comes out, he tries to get it up there on a site so you can. It's just a central place to find it. Is what it is. So.
Yep. Along with sportsreplays.net. Don't forget that.
Yep. Well. Either one is good. Yep. And keep in mind that when you order from Roberto, you do need you basically send him an email or a PayPal and tell him what you want. If you want a lot of stuff, send him an email and get a price from him. There's really no ordering form There's no shopping cart or anything. It's basically
there's no store involved with this. It's all.
Yeah, this is just a showcase on the website and on Sports Replays of his games. You pick what you want and then send them off either, a PayPal or a message and say, hey, look, I'm looking at all this stuff there, whatever. Give him a heads up. But it's all done through email and PayPal.
And Roberto would love to hear from you. So I'm looking at a 32 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid because he's now releasing it both summer and winter all the way through it as one packet, one Olympics per package. And so I've got Lake Placid, which is about, I can see Mount Marcy, which is the tallest mountain in New York State, if I face the other way in my apartment. Because I face the over the Lake Champlain is the Adirondacks, and that's where those Olympics were. So they're really, really close. And so I'm looking to see, what do I do that I just do slides for? Is there anything I can really show as far as, doing it? Because it really was the first Olympics, summer or winter, that was held on American soil. And, of course, there was no television or satellite. Imagine doing figure skating on the radio. So all these exotic sports, but no one had ever really seen before. Bobsled, cross-country skiing. You know what else was there in Lake Placid? Dog sled racing.
Really?
Yes, I did not. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how to do that and condense it down to an hour package because no one's going to watch me roll those dice.
And there goes Scooby Doo. He's leading the pack over Rin Tin Tin.
There you go.
Right?
Yep. So take a look at that stuff. And so that's pretty much what we've been playing. So you ready to manage the next topic?
I think we can manage that.
Okay. And the PC has created some of the most amazing sports games ever. If you've come from a console background with a Madden or a FIFA or whatever, you might have found some of these pure replay games such as Replay or Action PC or Strat or APBA. But there's a whole nother genre of the sport which gives you more of a hands-on version of running a team as opposed to playing a team. Yes, with some of these games you can actually play the game, but it's much more about managing finances, keeping your players happy, developing game plans for your players to execute. I've been playing management games for about 25, 26 years.
Oh, wow.
I somehow got on AOL, I think I found the demo or a couple-year-old version of Championship Manager, which is now Football Manager.
Okay.
With DOS graphics, which allowed you to run the early one-season version of the Premier League. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the top 20 teams in England for that 93, 94, 94, 95, whatever it was. And even that was a challenge. You had to pick the tactics. You could decide. I'm not sure if this was the game that you could decide whether or not to spend money to improve your stadium so you can get more money. It was how I learned about promotion and relegation, keeping players happy. And so it was really not like anything I'd ever played. And it was kind of one of the, because it was different. It's like just one more game, just one more game for the team. To today, Football Manager 21, I think is the 31st version or 32nd version of this game.
Oh, wow.
Is a full-fledged 3D soccer simulator where it's a role-playing game. It really is Dungeons and Dragons or Star Wars or any of those for sports. And you decide the tactics, you talk to the press, you have to juggle everyone's playing time, you got to keep everybody happy, you got to win, you have to manage your board's expectations, you got to manage the fans' expectations. I mean, it really is, it's the ultimate. It's one of the better selling games in Europe. But it is a role-playing game. It is the learning curve on that. They tried to make as easy as possible, but that's just like going to your local ski area and saying, well, we're going to take you down the Black Diamond slope, but we'll help you the first 2 or 3
Yeah, these
times.
games, they have so much going on. There's so much to do in these games. There's so many different ways and avenues you can play this and things you can do and things you don't have to do that, just by nature, they're complicated.
And, there's other ones besides soccer, or there's a couple other for soccer. There used to be one called Sick as a Parrot, which was more into tactics and team play as opposed to individuals and contracts, which, of course, would later, not that, but, later would spin off as the management thing spin off as the front office football series. I don't know if you've ever played that, which gave you the opportunity to be an NFL GM and help develop game plans. You didn't actually play the game. There was some rudimentary play calling, but the design was for you was meant for develop a game plan, watch it kind of sim out, or read the box score after and adjust.
Yeah, the idea is that you want to see how your plan comes to fruition. And
it was to start with real NFL players from that particular year in draft. But then in the future, it would all turn fictional. So it wasn't like a 2nd and 10 where you could just replay the 1963 NFL season. You couldn't do that with this.
Mm-hmm.
It was strictly go through and make the Giants or make the Patriots as good as they could be. And there was simulated free agency, and you had to stay under the cap and all that. He spun that off into a college football game, which you had to recruit for your team, and that was quite fun. The recruiting part was fun. There's been some Wolverine Studios makes a whole series of games, including college football and college basketball. Again, you can kind of coach them, but the whole thing is about recruiting and putting together the best team and hoping that your college basketball stars don't jump to the NBA and again, keeping people happy. The one I think probably most people would have heard of outside of Football Manager is Out of the Park Baseball, which is, again, in its 21st version.
I think so, yeah.
Which allows you, Dave talked about what he was playing about being a sandbox. It really is a sandbox. You can take your favorite current team and try to get them to the promised land. You can go through and start with any team in Major League history and try to go through. You can do it as a strict replay. If you so choose, you can set up fictional leagues or random debut leagues. Literally, if you want to take a Middle-earth Lord of the Rings league, you could. With this customization all through the place, and numbers. And
the great thing about the OTP baseball game is that you can even really get into the actual playing of the game too. It's
probably as far as playing the game itself, it is probably the one that is the easiest one to do. You can play the games out by yourself, or you can just let the computer run them and do that. And they now have a 3D engine within the game that allows you to see highlights of the game if you if you just want to run the GM things. The artificial intelligence in all these games has improved immensely over the years. They are tough to beat. They are frustrating at times. OOTP for years has had multiplayer leagues, which I've been a part of at some point. Literally that game, the sky is indeed the limit. We talked about Franchise Hockey Manager. There's a couple European basketball ones. There's a cricket one if you so choose. And there's a motorsports one, which I've been tempted to do because F1 management games are pretty popular in Europe, and F1 and soccer football are the two biggest sports in Europe. So you can pick your poison. And again, because computing power is pretty cheap these days, you could pretty much do, as Dave talked about, whatever it is you want and have an experience that works for you.
Yeah, like I say, when I play, the first time I played something like this, I think it was on the console, and maybe it was one of the Madden games, and you could actually set prices for parking and hot dogs, and that was the first foray I get into stuff besides playing the game.
Football Manager?
No, it was
Football Mogul?
No, it was in Madden or one of those video games that you play on Xbox. I think it was like the Xbox 360.
Okay.
And you could relocate the team if you wanted to. If the team wasn't doing good, you could build the new stadium. You could add to the stadium. And it was very clunky how it happened, and it wasn't. It was just kind of tacked on to the actual Madden game. But if you wanted to, there was some GM stuff you could do. Then slowly but surely they started adding in drafts into these games. And for me, I just at the time I just wanted to play. I really didn't want to get into salaries and drafting and all this other stuff, so I kind of glossed over all of that stuff there myself until I stumbled onto Franchise Hockey Manager 2. That was the first serious one I played. But there were some other games before that allowed you to do a handful of GM things. I think even the hockey games would allow you to draft for the next season and roll over the season and the whole bit. In the OOTP stuff, I've played the OOTP games. I haven't got deep into that. I haven't played too much of that, but I've mostly done the Franchise Hockey Manager stuff. But it's different. And so talk about this for a second. It's a little bit different than the Action PC.
It is. I mean, there are draft functions for Stratomatic and Action PC for their computer and Second and 10, because there are draft leagues that run with that, but those are practically designed for human interaction. So if you and your buddies have an 18 league with Dave Little and our friend Sports Time Machine, Mr. Mike, does a bunch of those Stratomatic retro leagues or current draft leagues. And so you could run it all through the computer. The computer can, you set a computer manager and the computer plays those games. In fact, that's the Stratomatic 365 does that. You don't even need to own the PC game. You and a bunch of buddies can do a modern league, a 70s league, whatever it is that you want to do. And those are popular because people do fantasy, whether it's season-long fantasy or daily fantasy for that. So drafting is something that people really enjoy to do. And so there is – I know there's a few Action PC football leagues. I'm sure there's some baseball leagues as well. But yes, so even though those functions are kind of there – that is designed for draft leagues, but not draft and roll over and sim by yourself leagues. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I find that there are some similarities between playing cards and dice and the franchise manager games, especially when it gets down to your lineups and your players. So let's just say you're playing cards and dice, and one guy's just playing bad. You can drop him down in the lineup or put him down on a line or scratch him for the game, just like you can do in some of the management games here. It's just a heck of a lot easier on the computer because they keep all the stats and the whole bit there. So there are some similarities to playing on the tabletop versus on the computer there. Myself, I never, like I say, I mentioned before, I never really get into all the drafting and the salaries and all that stuff there. I tend to let the computer handle some of that stuff there. But the more I play, because you can do all this stuff in these games, I find myself doing a little bit more every time I play. I used to just set to, Franchise Hockey Man is the one I've been really playing. It's just let the or even if I'm picking a play in Action PC, just let the computer pick the play. But sometimes I get in there and I manipulate a little bit. Even with Pro Strategy Football, I'll get in and I'll substitute guys in for certain plays and really kind of nitpick what I want to do. And that's a fun thing that you can do with some of these games. But as far as the salaries, and I just whatever you want to get to. Sometimes you try to negotiate in that game, and it's fun. And that's a game within a game. And other times it's a pain in the neck. And but I've had my fun in these games, and I like the fact that they're there if I want to do it. If I want to just be the GM and sign guys and trade guys, I can do that. It's nice. It's nice to have something different than you controlling someone on the ice or on the field or whatever.
Yeah, and it certainly is OOTP and Football Manager. You certainly are in deep control, and you can let the computer do it. There's storylines involved, depending on what you want to do. There's team chemistry. There's a lot to keep track of, and you can let the computer do all of that, or you can do most of that yourself. And that's, again, this kind of now has kind of gone into the realm of role-playing games. I mean, yes, I think anything along the lines of what we do, whether it's cards and dice, you're taking on a role of some sort. So, if you want to get pedantic, these are all role-playing games. But this really kind of goes into the realm of like I said in the beginning, like a Dungeons and Dragons.
It's a fantasy world. And one of the things that I've been doing in Franchise Hockey Manager is I've been trying to take either original 6. I just started up the expansion teams too. When they had the Seals and the Kings and everybody came in. I took the North Stars. I'm the general man of the North Stars. So I got to 12 teams now. That's when when they added the extra 6 teams to the NHL. And what I did is I went into the rules of the league and I locked it down. So I'm going to play those 12 teams, and I'm going to play like 20 years. And I'm not going to add any more expansion teams. And so that's the big what if. Again, there's the world. There's the fantasy Dungeons and Dragons world right there. I took those 12 teams, the original 6 plus the next 6 that come in 67. I fired up 69 because that was right before Buffalo and Vancouver come in. And I shut it off. So next season, Buffalo and Vancouver should not come into my league that I created. And then in 72, if I can learn how to do this properly, the Islanders and the Atlanta Flames will not come into the league. And then in 74, the Capitals and the Scouts will not join the league. So I want to see how far I can go with my 12-team league that I got here running the Minnesota North Stars and see what I can do if we don't add any teams to the league. And that's some of the fun sandboxy things you can do, because not only do you control the team in this game, you can control the league. And I would imagine that OOTP Baseballs is similar to that.
There's a commissioner's mode, which I generally use because haggling with the computer can be quite the trip. And when you know that you've given a fair deal and it won't do it, and they can kind of override budgets and stuff like that, but you can shut all that off. If you want, you can be legitimately there. Or again, it's kind of like the pizza deal. You can do the pizza. There is no wrong answer for how you do a pizza. You can do it whatever you want, and that's the thing with this game. And it builds communities. I mean, it's the perfect way to do a multiplayer thing because the computer does all the summing for you. You submit game plans or lineups and rotations, and if A gets hurt, then B goes in the lineup and all that. And so it's all right there.
Yeah. I just love how that not only you can run the team, the general manager, but like I say, you actually control the whole league in commissioner mode.
It's your universe.
And you can,
it's absolutely your universe.
And you can, manipulate divisions. You can move teams around. You can just, create different divisions, create a conference, rename it. I mean, you can really, really make it your league. And
I really enjoy doing everything as fictional.
Because talk about that for a sec. Because you've talked about in the past that you like to do some fictional stuff. So sell me on the fictional stuff, okay? Because I really haven't done this. So sell me on it.
And so you would expect Bobby Orr or Raymond Bourque to perform a certain way. And I think the game's engines themselves have done a good job trying to replicate Bobby Orr or Ray Bourque. But it's also possible that Ray Bourque gets a career-ending injury in year 2, or Bobby Orr plays till he's 50, which is, I think, is what you want, And so if they do something that you don't necessarily expect, or you can't re-sign them and you have to trade one of them away, which is the whole point of doing it, because you get attached to players and stuff like that. In fictional, you don't know anybody. You can set if you wanted the league to be based in Saugus and go with the 8 towns there and have everyone have Boston Garden size rinks, you can, or New England or wherever it is you want. You want a hockey league or baseball league in New Mexico? By God, you can have Albuquerque and Las Cruces playing each other for the Stanley Cup if you want, and also the players. Because I come from a replay background, I expect players to not randomly develop. I don't want to see Nolan Ryan get Tommy John surgery and miss 2 years. That's not why I'm playing. I mean, it's some people do. Again, this is not there's no wrong answer here. I'd rather have Dave Gardner come through and do that. Is Dave Gardner the hot prospect. I drafted Dave Gardner. I want Dave Gardner to develop and make the majors. And if Dave Gardner gets hit by a truck, that's too bad, but it's not the lasting memory of someone that you grew up liking there. And so
there's no disappointment.
There's no disappointment. It's all again, it's kind of like pulling out a novel from the library or from your favorite book supplier and reading that. There's, I was like, oh, what happened to Ron's arm? Well, Ron fell off a ladder and Ron can't pitch anymore, or Ron hit the game-winning home run, or, that sort of thing. And so it's, I think, harder to be disappointed. And I think it's also easier to make those moves for me that you need to make. Said player isn't going to sign with your team, but I want Jim Rice to be in Boston forever, right? I mean, but Jim Rice wants to go. And I have to let Jim Rice go. Can I trade him?
So there's no emotional attachment to a fictional player.
I mean, you develop it in the course of playing the game, but it's not the same as the childhood memories. Like
I get it. Okay. And remember when we talked with Jeff last week on the interview? We talked about this game I played on the Commodore 64 called Ice Hockey. Okay. Now that was a game that had fictional players in it, and you could trade. Okay, and guys retired and the whole bit. So, again, you come in as the expansion team, and the first thing I did, and I remember the guy's name was Bosch, because it was all fictional guys, but I tried several times to try to get a good guy in my team, and I ended up trading somebody for this guy named Bosch from St. Louis or something like that. And that's the only guy I could trade for, but he was a really good player, and he carried my expansion team. And, my goalie was old and getting ready to retire, so I had to find a goalie. So there was all fictional guys in that league. Yeah, so I didn't know who was who, but I just tried to trade. Finally, they said, okay, so I knew every time I fired up the game, I could trade for Bosch, who was a good player. My goalie was old, so I had to go find a younger goalie at some point, but it was not NHL players. It was just random players. And so it was neat in a way because you didn't know anybody.
And the thing now with the way technology is, every new start's a random start, and you can put franchises wherever you want. And so you don't necessarily figure out how the game works. I mean, any game can be gamed, but you don't necessarily know from the start. And maybe the thing is, you do the Caribbean Hockey League, Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I want to take you, Bermuda, Bahama, you know how the rest of that song goes, and whatever it is that you desire. And so you can build in your head what, again, we talked about sandboxes and different universes. You can build the ideal universe for that and bring in who you want. As you said, set the rules for the league. Will the league evolve over time? I know in OOTP, the modifiers can change. So if you want, you could start in a neutral era, or a high pitching era, or a high batting era, and never have that change. So if your wheelhouse is like the mid-'80s for hockey, you could do, theoretically, mid-'80s hockey forever. That's how it goes through. And so if you are a New Jersey Devils fan and love the neutral zone trap, you can play that forever. And
so the management games are not only managing your team, they're managing the league.
I'm managing the league. Or, the traditional, I am a fan of the Montreal Canadiens. I think that they have the basis of a very good young team. I want to take over that team, and let's see where I can go in the next 5 years. Can I build a Stanley Cup contender in Montreal? Or, because of the historical aspect of it, do I take over the Habs after they win that cup in 93 and not have Patrick Waugh come to me and said, this is the last game I ever play for your team?
I watched that game live, by the way.
So did I.
You should have called me. You should have called me.
So did my future wife.
I called a buddy of mine.
We hadn't been together that long that night, and when she's going, "What is he saying?" And I went, "I hope we get fair market for him, because We didn't in the John LeClaire. And
that was televised. I want to say that was ESPN or something. It was like a Wednesday night game.
No, it was Saturday night. It was one of the last games at the Forum.
Okay.
So it was. I watched it on the Hockey Night in Canada. I don't know if it was.
What month was that? Was that April?
January. If I was with Sarah, it was after February. So probably February '96.
Okay. Was it one of the last games at the Forum?
Maybe it may have been the last full year at the Forum because when they moved to Centre Bell or Bell Center or Molson Center as it was when it first opened, that was a mid.
Okay.
Kind of like the Maple Leaf Gardens. That was a mid-year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember. I called a buddy of mine. I said, "You got to turn on this hockey game." I said, "Detroit is crushing Montreal in Montreal. Waz losing his mind." And it was just I couldn't turn away. It was a car wreck, and who would have known that was his last game? He was that mad. He went
up to Ronald Corey, who was the president of the Canadiens at the time, and he literally said to him, as he's stalking off to the locker room, "This is the last game I'm ever playing for Montreal."
Wow.
And so, what leverage did Montreal have?
Yeah.
Not much.
but you could manage your game and Waz stays with you.
Right, and you can tell Patrick the Pound saying
so, but you could take him out. You don't even have to dress him for that game against Detroit. So that never happens.
That never happens. Yeah, so I mean, again, you can build whatever sandbox you want. You can get kind of lost in there, and that's the beauty of these things. And it can be as realistic as you want it to be. It can be as silly as you want it to be. It can be whatever it is that you want. And
I mean, you could get as silly as you could take an entire team and like just put all like left fielders on the team. Like
sure.
take the top 20 left fielders in the game and put them on one team. So no one else has a left fielder, but you don't have any infielders or catchers. That would be hysterical to see how that team would do. Take the top of one category and put them on a team, and like they all have to learn different positions, but they all can bat like a son of a gun.
It really is all about creativity and your imagination and what you want to do with it. Then again, it can be quite frustrating too, because just because you set it up to be in your wheelhouse,
it doesn't go as planned.
Mean that the Jell-O tastes good.
Yeah, sometimes you burn the roof of your mouth on that pizza.
Yes, that pineapple gets awful hot. I saw a picture last week of somebody with a Taha funny meme of strawberries on pizza.
Now that's getting a little crazy.
Okay.
That's getting a little crazy.
I'm glad you agree. But yes, it can be whatever it is that you want. And most sports have a version of a management game. I play a tennis management game as well. It can be what you want it to be. And so if you've never tried that before.
It is fun taking a step back from managing the actual game. The game between two teams. And it is fun stepping back and taking over the GM role of stuff that happens before and after the game. And then seeing your decisions and your ideas, see how they play out. And for the record, when I pick my team to franchise hockey manager, I'm terrible at it. I'm constantly middle of the pack to bottom. I'm just not a good drafter. I don't know what it is. I'm terrible, but I enjoy it so much. And
that's the key thing.
And again, I got a 18, 19-year-old Tony Esposito who's now leading my team. He's my starting goalie because my Gump Worsley retired. I didn't know. I picked Gump Worsley at 34 years old. I thought I'd have him till he's 40 because he played till he was 40. He retired at 35, and he gave the keys to Tony. Tony, you're 18. Take over for me. My random debut. But that's the fun of it. It really was. It was so fun, and you don't get that if you're just playing two teams against each other. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like we talked about, there's no wrong here. But it's very different, and it's something that you might want to take a look at some point, because it is fun. It is fun doing other things in sports that you don't get to do.
Yeah, and our dear friend Al, Red Sox fan, also is a big fan of the what ifs and the one and dones. And
what you mean? Like what if horses ran 6 miles?
Well, he does those too.
Okay,
but sending their cards and letters too. No, but if you, it's an OOTP. It's really easy to set up two historical teams against each other. And so, if you want to see what the 21 Yankees or the 27 Yankees,
he's always doing stuff like that. Yeah,
and it's just, and it gives it an environment, and it gives it a 3D environment, so it's graphical, and you can get into it and all that. I mean, there just is almost an infinite amount of ways to play these games. And again, there's no wrong way to get Reese's, and there's no wrong way to play these games. It's whatever you choose to have fun with. And yeah, so a lot of fun can be had in these manager games. So we'd like to know from you. Do you play any of the manager games? You know, do you manage a team? Do you manage a whole league? You know, how do you do it if you do in one of these manager games? Do you like to? Some people love to do the salaries and negotiate and all. They spend hours and hours doing that, you know. And if that's what you enjoy, we want to know that. You know what I mean? And so what do you get out of manager games if you play them? How do you find your fun in these games? Because boy, they are really wide open as far as what you can do. And like Ron said, it's not just the baseball and the hockey and the football. There's all kinds of management games out there for different kind of things. Yes, absolutely. The Tennis Elbow Manager is one I recommend because you can train your own player, have him or her play in, I think from like 80, I think it starts in 83 and goes all the way to the current day. Now, the names aren't real for players, so it's Pete Sampras or Patrick Sampras and Andre Agassi and James Carrier. And
I love when games do that, when they dance around the actual player's name. Right. It is hysterical, actually.
Yeah, I forget what John McEnroe's is, but you know the characteristics for the player are there, and you can do that, and it's fun to watch develop your player from being a junior player to a Grand Slam winner. And then you got to juggle, well, if I concentrate on physical skills, then I'll lose some, you know, I mean, it's all a juggling act. And how much of that do you want to juggle? And you can sign other players and build. Yes. Yeah, it really is. If you're not familiar, I wouldn't say it's a tycoon game. Again,
I was going to mention that, like Roller Coaster Tycoon and Amusement Park Tycoon.
Some of that with it, but the money really doesn't. You use the money to in-game currency to spend on upgrading coach in the tennis game, upgrading coaches or that. And OOTP, I don't think the money matters for refurbishing your stadium. It's all about developing, you know, hiring good scouts.
It's about the players and the coaches,
developing the players. So it really depends on what experience that you want. I don't think there is a bribe feature in some of the college games. Not that would ever happen in real life.
No,
not at all. No. But yes.
Would that be the Aunt Becky DLC?
Yes.
Exactly. Download the DLC. It's extra. It's $10 million extra, but you can download the.
Get your daughter to be the 20th player on a 12-player volleyball team. Yes.
Yes, you can.
But yeah, and you again, as I said before, the sky really is a limit on what you can do. It's not everybody's cup of tea.
No, they're not usually simple. That's the thing, is they
no, and it's
not a pick up and play. You got to watch videos and read
and play. And you can do historical replays. Your mileage may vary in what you get out of it, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, if you've never played these types of game before, we highly encourage you to look at them. And I know that OOTP and Franchise Hockey Manager go on sale 2 or 3 times a year on Steam, especially when the new version's about to go out the door. The old one goes onto a deep discount for $5 or $10. Try it. You're not losing it.
Yeah, for $5 or $10, yeah, give it a. Sometimes they package them together too, and they're pretty inexpensive. But they are a little daunting at first. So you do have to get a little bit of instruction before you get going, because there's just so much. It's, it's almost like you jump in a Boeing, airplane, and you look at all the levers and all the switches and the lights, and it's like, I have no idea what they all do. And so you got to take one little section at a time. Like, okay, what does this do? What does that do? And let me set up this, and just start small, and then slowly build up and add something new every time you play. And that's what I've been doing. And I still probably I don't think I even play close to 25% of what the game can do, but my little 25% that I play, I really enjoy, and that's what's fun for me.
And if you're a casual fan of a sport, these games can be really daunting because they are designed for people who are hardcore into that particular sport.
Yeah, you can spend hours, if not days, managing your team in between games for your team.
Yes.
That's kind of how these things are set up to be. Or you can set it to, automatic pilot, so to speak, and manage what you want to manage, and then let the rest play out, with the computer. So again, you find a balance, and I find that I let everything run automatically, then slowly I take a piece of that and I manage something, and then I take another piece away from the computer and I manage that, and next thing you know, you're doing quite a bit of managing, and it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
Yes, and it comes, so I think that's about it. But yeah, try them if you haven't, and maybe you'll find something that you like. And again, these are not, certainly belong on your virtual table along with some of the replay-based games. You can have fun with both.
Mm-hmm.
There's no I'm only playing A because I don't like B. You can have them both.
Yep, and it's a fun, for me. It's a fun break from some of the sims that I do, that I can just go in here and just goof around and get really crazy with teams. And I might try that fictional thing. I like the idea of, you don't have a rooting interest, you don't have any emotional tie.
Right.
To somebody.
You're creating it as you go.
Yep. And so
there's no preconceived notions when you start. And again, you can put teams anywhere you want.
Yep.
And that also is quite fun. So you can do fictional with real NHL teams. And so you can have the attachment to the Boston Bruins or the Chicago Blackhawks or what have you. Or you can do the Amarillo Roadrunners. It's up to you.
I like that. I like the Amarillo. That might be my expansion team.
The Amarillo Roadrunners.
All right. Sounds good.
Don't sign the Coyote.
the Coyote Anvils? We'll call them the Anvils.
You can just drop them on the other players. Womp. There it is.
Scoop. There it is.
Scoop. There it is.
Scoop. Chocolate. Chocolate. I like that commercial. It's kind of fun.
How do people get a hold of us?
All right. Here we go. All right, by the numbers. This was episode 74 of the Digital to Dice podcast. We talked about management games. Ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is our website over at Spreaker, where we park all the podcasts. 978-751-DICE. 978-751-3423 is how you can text us and leave us a voicemail we may or may not play on the show. digitaltodice@yahoo.com. And as Ron mentioned, that's a T-O. It's not a number 2. It's a digital T-O dice.com at yahoo.com. Facebook.com/group/digitaltodice. CafePress.com/digitaltodice. And I think that's about it. And you can catch the replay on my YouTube channel, Dave Gardner Videos. The podcast bumps over there automatically if you want to listen on YouTube.
So,
all right. Any final words there, Mr. Ron?
This was fun.
Yeah, these are a different type of games, but they complement all the stuff we do very nicely.
That's a good word. They complement each other.
Yeah, it's something that I don't do all the time, but I get into my modes where I really enjoy these sandboxes here for a while. But then I gotta jump out of the sandbox and dust myself off and play some shootout or something else of actual cards and dice and things like that. So, all right, so we'll catch everybody later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.